What up, y'all? This is your boy, Mr. Downtown Ray Mello, and you're listening to the Entertainment Report on iHeartRadio, live from Dubai for Wednesday, September 2nd, 2015, delivering some major stories and trends going on in the world of entertainment and beyond. You can follow the show on Facebook or on Twitter, facebook.com/The Entertainment Report with Ray Mello, that's RAYMELO, or on Twitter at The Enter Report. You can listen to the show anytime you want on iHeartRadio. Just go to iHeart.com or your iHeart app, search for the Entertainment Report, and it'll take you to the page. The former director of the Jared Foundation, a charity created by longtime Subway spokesman Jared Fogle, has agreed to plead guilty to 12 counts of child exploitation and 1 count of child pornography, federal prosecutors said Tuesday. Russell Taylor, 44, admitted to using multiple hidden cameras in his Indianapolis area residence to produce child pornography involving 12 minors between March 2011 and April 2015, prosecutors said according to the Associated Press. None of the minors were aware they were being filmed while nude, changing clothes, or engaged in other activities. Fogle came under suspicion following Taylor's arrest in May, and he has since been bombarded with allegations in an extensive child pornography investigation. He appears in federal court in Indianapolis, Indiana on August 19th and agreed to plead guilty to distribution and receipt of child pornography and unlawful sex acts with minors. Under the latest plea agreement, Taylor can ask for a sentence of less than 15 years in prison, and prosecutors can ask for a sentence of up to 35 years, followed by a lifetime supervised release. However, the judge presiding over his case is not bound by the terms. U.S. Attorney Josh Minkler said in a statement, adults who sexually exploit children by producing child pornography knowingly cause vast harm to their victims and should expect appropriate strong punishment. According to prosecutors, investigators served a search warrant at Taylor's home on April 29th and found sexually explicit photos and videos that he allegedly produced by secretly filming the minors at this home. Over 400 videos of child pornography in computers, cellular phones, and storage media recovered from a home office was discovered at the property. Taylor also downloaded commercially produced pornography involving children as young as about 6 from the internet, prosecutors claim, and then Fogle gained access to a large amount of the material. Subway posted a statement on Twitter August 18th, distancing itself from Fogle, stating, "We no longer have a relationship with Jared and have no further comment." MTV's television adaptation of the horror slasher franchise Scream wrapped its first season on Tuesday, finally revealing the killer behind the Brandon James mask. Piper Shea, the true crime podcaster played by Amelia Rose Blair, was revealed to be the baby given up by Maggie when Brandon James was killed 20 years ago. Upset about having been denied the life that Emma was given, she chose to exact her revenge as a knife-wielding killer, culminating in a final confrontation on the same dock where her father was shot dead. Blair told the Wrap, "I just remember putting on the mask, putting on the cape, and I had these huge combat boots and a knife in my hand. My whole body was shaking, and I felt like I had a black hole in my center. I honestly don't remember what happened after the mask came off. I just went somewhere else." Former Hewlett-Packard CEO Carly Fiorina will most likely join the rest of the top 10 GOP candidates on the main stage for the next Republican debate on September 16th. This after organizers made changes to the debate rules. CNN announced Tuesday it's reevaluating its criteria and decided to add a provision that better reflects the state of the race since the first Republican presidential debate in August. They also added now any candidate who ranks in the top 10 as polling between August 6th and September 10th will be included. The original rules, based on an average of polls conducted between July 16th and September 10th, would have prevented Fiorina from participating in the main CNN debate. Fiorina gave what was widely considered one of the best performances during the Fox News Cleveland debate last month, despite being relegated to the non-primetime kiddie table debate, which aired earlier that evening. Under the new formula, the second GOP debate at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley, California, may end up including more than 10 candidates. Fiorina wrote in an email to supporters on Tuesday, "CNN and the Republican National Committee have announced a change to the debate rules. I look forward to appearing on the main stage for the next debate. If she earns a spot, Fiorina will be the only woman in the mix." The Muppets unveiled a first look at Kermit the Frog's new girlfriend Denise on Tuesday. The ABC mockumentary series sees the Frog split from longtime love interest Miss Piggy, though the two continue to work together on the fictional late-night talk show Up Late with Miss Piggy. The new character, Denise, who is also a pig, was identified at a Television Critics Association summer press tour last month as an ABC marketing executive working with Kermit on the talk show. However, it wasn't revealed until Tuesday that she was in a relationship with the Frog. A Twitter from the Muppets Twitter account says the word is out. Kermit is seeing Denise. We're bracing for Miss Piggy's forthcoming wrath. However, in true Hollywood style, Kermit has denied that he has a girlfriend, claiming that they are simply close friends. He tweeted, "Sheesh, I can't believe I already have to do this again. Here's the official statement on my relationship status. While I prefer to keep my personal life private, this is Hollywood, so who am I kidding? It is true that I am dating again. However, at this time, no woman, pig or otherwise, is my official new girlfriend. We are simply close friends." On Monday, it was announced that Liam Hemsworth will guest star on the ABC reboot, and he has already started flirting with Miss Piggy on Instagram, calling her the most beautiful girl in the world. As for Denise, Twitter users were quick to point out that she's a younger, more glamorous version of her predecessor, who has been compared to Emma Stone, Olivia Wilde, and Game of Thrones character Marguerite Tyrell. The Muppets premiere on ABC September 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. David Hill was surprised when he got a call to meet with Academy President Cheryl Boone Isaacs and CEO Don Hudson. The former chairman of Fox Sports, who the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science said Monday will produce the 88th Oscars alongside filmmaker Reginald Hudlin, has had plenty of practice overseeing live sports events, but he freely admits my knowledge of film was at best sketchy. 20th Century Fox chairman Jim Ganounopoulos, who sits on the Academy Boards of Governors, had first spoken with Hill about taking on the Oscar show producing assignment. Yet, when a meeting with Boone Isaacs and Hudson was subsequently set for 4:30 p.m. on a Friday, Hill, as he tells it, assumed it was just a courtesy. Hill recounts, "I've been in Hollywood long enough to know that the 4:30 Friday meeting is the kiss-off meeting, the meeting you have to have, but you don't really have to have. Normally what happens is, do you want some coffee? Would you like some cookies? How are the kids? Oh, love at this time. The traffic dreadful on the 10. Have to fly. Kissy, kissy. We must do lunch." So I told my wife, Joan, that I'd be home at 5:45, but I didn't get home till late. And that began a series of conversations culminating in today's announcement. While Hill has been celebrating for the technical innovations he brought to sports coverage, like a continuous on-screen clock and score, he says that won't carry over to producing the Oscars, which is, quote, not a job that involves technical gimmicks at all. Instead, he says the approach he and Hudlin have been discussing will be all about storytelling. He explains the godfather of sports has been the great ABC executive Roone Arledge. And I've never done anything in a production sense where I haven't thought, what would Roone do? The classic thing that Roone came up was the simplest. It was the close and personal so that the audience get to know people. Reggie and I have been talking about the up-close and personal approach so that we get to know the guys who make the best short animations. So when the award is given, you get this magic moment. You say, I'm so proud of him, even though you've never seen him or her before. He adds that he and Hudlin hope to stitch those moments together into a large story. He says the show is a storytelling show. How do you make the awards flow together into a thread? To me, the awards feel like non sequiturs, and for the life of me, I still haven't been able to figure out what's the difference between sound editing and sound mixing. What's the difference between a short documentary and a feature documentary? Same thing with short animation. So what are we talking about is constructing the awards so that the awards in and of themselves build the best picture. While Hill and Hudlin have not previously known each other at the suggestion of Boone Isaacs, the two met during the ongoing discussions. Hill says, I needed someone who knew and loved film as much as I understood television. And so Hudlin visited Hill at the latter's home where he was recovering from ankle surgery. Hill added, fortunately, after about 10 minutes, we realized we had the same sense of humor, so we spent the afternoon roaring with laughter as we talked about stuff. By cobbling us together, I think Cheryl has achieved the best of both worlds. She got someone who knows his way around television very well as someone who knows his way around film very well. With our skill set matched together, I think we're going to have some pretty good fun doing the show. As for their first job, finding a host, Hill said, "It's way too early. We've talked and talked and talked, and we'll continue to talk and talk. Don't forget that the movies that are going to shape the show, a lot are going to come out between September and December, so we don't know what shape the show is going to take. The show has got to develop organically." While the most recent producers, Craig Zadan and Neil Marin, operated under a 3-year deal with the Academy, Hill says for himself and Hudlin, "It's a 1-year gig, which I'm more happy about. I want to see it if I like it. Reggie wants to see it if he likes it. I think we're going to get it right, and if so, they want us to stick around for a while." Hill does have one other goal for the show, to be broadcast February 28th on ABC. He says, "To make sure the show gets off the air when it's supposed to get off the air. I've always prided myself on getting my shows off on time, and I don't see why this one should be any different." The bookmaker's favorite to step into Daniel Craig's blood-spattering shoes as the next James Bond isn't suave enough for the role, according to the author of the next 007 novel. Anthony Horowitz, whose James Bond title Trigger Mortis hit bookshelves on September 8th, has waded into the debate over whether Idris Elba should be the next actor to get a license to kill. Horowitz doesn't think so. In an interview with British tabloid The Daily Mail, the author said he thought Elba was a bit too rough to play the part, although he asserted it wasn't a color issue. He says, "I think he is probably a bit too street for Bond. It is a question of being suave, yeah." Horowitz also laid into Skyfall, the last 007 film from director Sam Mendes, and the most successful to date, which he branded his least favorite and the one Bond title he never liked. Horowitz said, "Bond is weak in it. He has doubts. That's not Bond. Secondly, the villain wins. The villain sets out to kill M. The film finishes with the villain killing M. So why have I watched it?" He also criticized the premise of the film's final explosive chapter, in which Bond takes duty Dent's spymaster to his ancestral home in order to keep her safe. He says, "If you have to protect the head of M16 from a madman, do you take her to a Scottish farmhouse with no weapons and tell your bad guy where you are so he will arrive with 6 people to kill her?" It's that sort of thing that makes me angry. Mendes returns with the next Bond film, Spectrum, which premieres in the UK on October 26th and on November 6th in the US. Horace released the statement on Twitter clarifying his remarks and apologizing for any offense after his remarks generated controversy online. He said, "I'm really sorry my comments about Idris Elba have caused offense. That wasn't my intention. I was asked in my interview if Idris Elba would make a good James Bond. In the article, I expressed the opinion that, to my mind, Adrian Lester would be a better director, but I'm a writer. Adrian Lester would be a better choice, but I'm a writer, not a casting director. So what do I know? Clumsily, I chose the word street as Elba's gritty portrayal of DCI John Luther was in my mind, but I admitted it was a poor choice of words. I am mortified to have caused offense." Comedian Josh Gad has signed on to portray film critic Roger Ebert in Russ and Roger, XTX's entertainment comedy centered on the film critic and filmmaker Russ Meyer. Will Ferrell is already on board to play Mayer, the sexploitation king who made movies like Wild Gals of the Naked West and Faster Pussycat Kill Kill, before finally landing a picture deal at 20th Century Fox, which liked the way he handled his budgets. The first movie out of the gate was Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, a satire that ran afoul of the censors but ended up becoming a 1970s classic. Mayer wrote that movie with Ebert, who in the late 60s was just a budding film critic and had written Mayer a letter of admiration. Together, the two tackled the ratings tribunal and the tightly wound studio. Russ and Roger is described as a debaucherous comedy centered on two outsiders who defy the Hollywood establishment and made one of the first X-rated films ever released by a major movie studio, having a party of a lifetime in the process. Michael Winterbottom is directing the feature, which has a script by Chris Clueless, and a production polished by Winterbottom, Neil Gibbons, and Rob Gibbons. Producing are David Piermont and Sabini's Mark Amin and Richard Walter. Gad's involvement was initially rumored last winter, even before the project had its director. Even though he was the front runner, a deal took months to make. Gad became a household voice when he gave life to Olaf the Snowman in Disney's Frozen. He starred with Adam Sandler and Peter Dinklage in Sony's action comedy Pixels and just wrapped production on Disney's live-action take on Beauty and the Beast, in which he plays LaFleur. The new Bourne movie has found a villain. French actor Vincent Cassel will play one of the villains in Universal's latest installment of its hit action franchise starring Matt Damon. Cassel joins Tommy Lee Jones and Alicia Vikander in the feature that sees Paul Greengrass back in the director's chair. Greengrass is also writing the script with Christopher Rouse. Cassel is playing a mysterious man simply known as the Asset, industry code for assassin. Cassel joins a list of actors that includes Clive Owen, Carl Urban, and Edgar Ramirez, who portrays Asset's hunting Bourne at the biting of an intelligence director in previous movies. American audiences may know Cassel's work through his appearances in Black Swan, Eastern Promises, and as the villain in Ocean's 13. Donald Trump is heading back to NBC for an interview. The Republican presidential candidate and former Celebrity Apprentice host will stop by The Tonight Show on September 11th, NBC announced on Tuesday. This will mark one of Trump's first appearances on the network since he and NBC parted ways in early July after he made what NBC deemed to be derogatory statements in which he referred to Mexican legal immigrants as rapists, bringing drugs and crime into the U.S. In addition to cutting Trump from Celebrity Apprentice, the network also dropped the Miss USA pageant, which instead aired on Reel's channel on July 12th, as well as the Miss Universe and Miss Teen USA pageants. Both pageants had aired on NBC for the previous 11 years. He has not appeared on any NBC shows with the exception of Today since then. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter last month, Trump discussed his changed relationship with NBC. Trump said, "The primary tension I had was that they wanted me to do The Apprentice, and they were very angry that I didn't do it. They didn't cut ties with me. I cut ties with them out of respect, but they were very upset." Speaking at the Television Critics Association Summit Press Tour last month, NBC Entertainment Chairman Bob Greenblatt was open about the network's separation from Trump, but also called him a lovely guy. Greenblatt said, "We weren't in any sort of adversarial position. There were no controversies. It was congenial, really great relationship." Although Greenblatt ruled out Trump's possible return to Celebrity Apprentice down the line, absolutely not, he said. The network chief also said Trump was absolutely welcome on the network's late-night shows. Trump became the latest presidential hopeful to hit the late-night circuit. Governor Chris Christie appeared on The Tonight Show on Monday. Republican presidential candidate Jeb Bush and Senator Bernie Sanders will visit The Late Show with Stephen Colbert during the program's first and second weeks of shows, respectively. Taylor Swift's recent debut, her music video for Wildest Dreams, co-starring Scott Eastwood, and is receiving criticisms from some media outlets for its content. The video was shot in an undisclosed location in Africa and directed by Joseph Kahn. It tells the story of two 1950s actors having a relationship while shooting a film in Africa. Jezebel's Madeline Davies described the storyline as an old Hollywood meets Out of Africa. She said it's all passion and desire while on location, but once back in Hollywood and shooting on the soundstage, our poor lovelorn colonizers just can't get it together. Many outlets have pointed out that the film only depicts wild animals and white people with, as Davies puts it, bizarrely nearly a black person in sight. The title of a Fader article about the video reads, "Taylor Swift went to Africa to film a music video and there's only white people in it." The Huffington Post, Mick, and the Daily Dot criticized Swift for the video. Joseph Kahn tweeted, "When I said I was on location, I lied. I was in Africa shooting a hashtag toothpaste commercial, which is Wildest Dreams." Huffington Post Lauren Duca said that the video channels wild colonialism, she said. She also added, instead of the cultural appropriation that has become almost status quo in today's pop music, Swift has opted for the bolder option of actually just embodying the political exploitation of a region and its people. The Daily Dot's Nico Lang said that the video has major race problems, Lang said. For a clip that's set in Africa, it's about as white as a Sunday morning farmer's market. Lang also added the video wants to have its old-school Hollywood romance, but it then ends up eating some old-school Hollywood racism, too. Just because you represent the past or pay respect to it doesn't mean you need to recreate its worst aspects. Mick Zacchini Rice talked about the history of white colonialism in Africa. He said the video's narrative of white people finding romance in the hinterlands of a land racked by colonial violence is not only obviously ahistorical, but it also exhibits tropes that people across the African diaspora have been trying to dispel for years. The video also takes place in the mid-20th century, a time when such classic Hollywood efforts as The African Queen and Out of Africa were either filmed or set, in which romanticizes a version of the era that overlooks the anti-black violence and slavery on which the lifestyles depicted were built, said Cheney Rice. He said, "It seems remarkable that the insidious nature of the African colonial fantasy is so seamlessly grossed over." Cheney Rice said that this is important because Swift's popularity and influence. When a pop culture product reaches as many people as a Taylor Swift video does, the images it presents have implications beyond their immediate purview. Swift's rep did not immediately respond to requests for comment. All proceeds of Swift's video will be donated to the African Parks Foundation of America. Justin Bieber's new single, What Do You Mean, received plenty of hype before its August 28th release, and now that the song is out, it's getting even more attention. One person who isn't so hot on the new track, though, is Girls creator and star Lena Dunham. The actress subtweeted her discomfort on the tune's lyrics on Monday, suggesting that What Do You Mean alludes to rape culture and asking to discontinue the release of problematic songs like it. She tweeted, "Let's do away with pop songs where a girl nods yes when she means no and vice versa, okay?" Dunham is referring to the song's chorus in which Bieber sings, "What do you mean when you nod your head yes, but you want to say no? What do you mean?" Although the official video for the single shows Bieber getting a bit racy with a girl in the bedroom, the lyrics to What Do You Mean are more about general relationship confusion than sexual content. As Dunham pointed out, the beginning of the chorus does sound a bit controversial, but other lines such as, "You're overprotective when I'm leaving, trying to compromise but I can't win," tells more of a miscommunication than anything else. Prior to the song's release, Bieber explained that the track's meaning himself. Bieber told Ryan Seacrest, "Girls are often just flip-floppy. They say something and they mean something else. So what do you mean? I don't really know. That's why I'm asking." Dunham later noted on Instagram, "How can anyone think I have an issue with Bieber?" The season opener of The X Factor in the UK this weekend attracted the lowest audience for a season launch of the singing competition since 2006. Last year, the return of creator Simon Cowell as a judge on the ITV show helped boost the ratings to the season debut. The 12-season launch episode this Saturday drew an average 7.7 million viewers, down from 9.5 million viewers last season. But the show's season debut once again dominated Saturday night in Britain with a share of almost 40% of people who were watching TV at the time tuning in. The 2013 season premiere had attracted 9.2 million average viewers in the overnight ratings, up to 8.7 million in 2012, which has been the show's lowest figure since 2006, when the season opener drew 7 million viewers. In 2011, the show's best season launch ever reached an average audience of 11.3 million people in the overnight ratings. That compared to 11.1 million in 2010. The second episode of the new season also drew lower ratings than last year. It attracted 6.5 million viewers, down from 8.2 million last year. This season features new UK judges Rita Ora and Lee Grissom, with Caroline Flack and Ollie Murs replacing Dermot O'Leary as hosts. Fox canceled the singing competition's U.S. version last year. Despite the rancor between Tom DeLonge and his Blink-182 bandmates when they parted ways earlier this year, the guitarist is not closing the doors on his involvement with the group. DeLonge told Billboard of singer Mark Hoppus and drummer Travis Barker, "I'm totally willing and interested in playing with those guys again. People ask me every day, go back, go back, go back. And I'm grateful for that band and for those guys in my life, and I think about that band every single day of my life, sometimes multiple times a day. I love those guys and I love the band, and yes, in the future, let's play together and figure it out or whatever. We just need time apart because we all want different things at this time. Those guys want to play live and tour all the time, but I'm involved in some very big shit and some very important stuff." DeLonge currently is immersed in the media projects with his company To the Stars. First up is the continued saga of his Poet Anderson science fiction saga, which began with the 2014 animated film and comic book, Poet Anderson, The Dream Walker, as well as the Angels and Airwaves album, The Dream Walker. On the way is the novel Poet Anderson of Nightmares, which he co-wrote with author Susan Young, and a companion EP of the same name that will be released September 4th. DeLonge explains, "What I'm doing now is the absolute focus at the core of what I want to do artistically. I've got to get these things finished before I can go back and celebrate something I did a long time ago, if that makes sense." And now let's look back at what happened on this date in entertainment history. On this date in 1973, J.R.R. Tolkien, the author of the best-selling fantasy novels The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, the source of the award-winning blockbuster movie trilogy directed, co-produced, and co-written by Peter Jackson, dies at the age of 81 in Bournemouth, England. With legions of fans worldwide, The Lord of the Rings has had a significant impact on pop culture in the last century. It has also been adapted for radio, television, and theaters, and has inspired video games, music, and even a housing development. John Ronald Reuel Tolkien, born on January 3, 1892 in Bolton Tyne, South Africa, was raised primarily in England. He graduated from Oxford, served in World War I, and went on to become a linguist and professor at his alma mater. One day when Tolkien was grading exam papers, he reportedly was inspired in a moment of boredom to write across the top of one page, "In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit." From there, he began to develop the story into his novel The Hobbit, which was published in 1937. A sequel, The Lord of the Rings, was published in 3 volumes between 1954 and 1955. The books are all set in a place called Middle-earth and revolved around adventures of a hobbit named Frodo Baggins, who must destroy a powerful ring and save the world from evil. Also on this date in 1996, Michael Jackson sets a record that has since been surpassed by only one other performer, Mariah Carey. Jackson earned his 12th #1 hit as a solo artist when the R&B ballad You Are Not Alone debuted at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Jackson's incredible run of chart-topping hits began in 1972 with the release of his 5th single, Ben, from the motion picture of the same name. It would be another 7 years before Jackson again reached the top of the pop charts, but when he did, it marked the beginning of a 10-year run as great as any in pop history. Don't Stop Till You Get Enough and Rock With You were Jackson's 2nd and 3rd #1 hits, both from the Quincy Jones-produced 1979 album Off the Wall, a triumph which release would be dwarfed by the success of the 1982 follow-up album Thriller. Yield Jackson's 4th and 5th chart-topping hits with Billie Jean and Beat It, while becoming one of the biggest-selling albums of all time and causing Time magazine to call Michael Jackson a one-man rescue team from the music business. 5 years later, Jackson anointed himself the king of pop and released the album Bad, which gave him his 6th through 10th #1 hits with I Just Can't Stop Loving You, Bad, The Way You Make Me Feel, Man in the Mirror, and Dirty Diana. Black and White from the album Dangerous became his 11th chart topper in 1991. You Are Not Alone, which topped the pop charts on September 2nd, 1996, was written and co-produced by the R&B star R. Kelly. And though a court in Belgium ruled in 2007 that Kelly had plagiarized You Are Not Alone from a Belgian song called If We Can Start All Over, it nevertheless stands as Michael Jackson's 12th and final solo #1 hit. And that is your entertainment report for Wednesday, September 2nd, 2015. I'm your host, Mr. Downtown Ray Mello. I'll be back tomorrow to deliver some major stories and trends going on in the world of entertainment and beyond. You can follow the show on Facebook or on Twitter, facebook.com/The Entertainment Report with Ray Mello. That's RAYMELO, or on Twitter at The Enter Report. You can listen to this episode or any previous episodes of The Entertainment Report anytime you want on iHeartRadio. Just go to iHeart.com or go into your iHeart telephone app, search for The Entertainment Report, and it'll take you to the page. Good night, and God bless you all.